like to bring this Personnel and Human Services Committee meeting to order on Tuesday, February 16th at about 4:03 p.m. Deanne, would you take the roll, please?
Lutz.
Here.
Kelly.
Here.
Duranson.
Here.
Dick.
Here.
Coonan.
Here.
Harris.
Here.
Krieger.
Yes.
Corn.
Thank you. Before you have the minutes of January 19th. What is your pleasure?
Support.
Have a motion of support and move. Any discussion? Seeing none? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And at this time, we have time set aside for public input. Those wishing to talk, please approach the podium.
Hi, Laura Ogard, Director of Environmental Affairs and Community Development. Thank you. I wanted to give the board an update on the presentation yesterday at the Garden Club over at the Wirt Library. There were about 35 people in attendance, and their request was to hear an update on some of the beach improvements that are planned out at the Bay City State Rec area. Those would be the DNR, which has assured the Senator Green and Representative Brunner that they will have the boardwalk across the wetlands with a 1,000-foot beachfront area groomed in place by this spring. So they have assured, DNR has assured our local representatives and our senator that that will happen this spring and that will be in place. And so we look forward to that. That's been a 2-year undertaking or longer. I also gave an update on the recent Phragmites Grant and the work that we've been doing for the past number of years, 4 years along the shoreline. As gardeners, they were very interested in that, and so I just wanted to pass that along. And then work towards possible scenic destination site, access site out at the end of State Park Drive, out by the old waterworks plant that the city owns. So it was a very receptive audience. They also asked about water quality, of course. There is still that lingering misunderstanding about combined sewage overflows in the Saginaw or the Saginaw City and the Bay City area. These overflows are treated for bacteria. They're fully treated for bacteria. And so when the media has reported as partially treated, it's only partially treated because it has not had the phosphorus removed. And so that was a very important point, that this wastewater has been treated. It has not gotten the phosphorus removed, but for the bacteriological component of that wastewater, it has been fully chlorinated and it meets permit standards. So that's very important, and I know the city's been very active. Rick Finn has been involved, and we are going to be looking at having an open house of some of the wastewater treatment plant this spring in April, because people need to understand that those are, our river is actually meets recreational water quality standards for the most part during the summertime. And then we talked about the septic code that we've been working on for a couple of years, proposed around the bay, the regional septic code. That is actually, the state has been looking at that as far as adopting that or possibly moving forward with some type of statewide sanitary code. But I know Commissioner Krieger is interested in furthering advancing the county's efforts towards getting that septic code adopted. So that's what we discussed. And again, people were very pleased to see that there's progress both in water quality as well as shoreline access.
Commissioner Hurd.
Laura, in the paper all the time when they talk, when you mentioned, they talk about the water that's dumped into the river, and maybe I think it's nice for the people to know, to hear what's really going on, because they think it's like sewage going, like everything's just being dumped, and then it's rained too much, so you weren't just dumping sewage in there. And maybe we need to, maybe the MY needs to realize what's actually going on. Or maybe it's probably them that don't realize what's exactly happening as far as, what's being dumped back into the river and all the tributaries when there's too much rain or there's an overflow or whatever, But I mean, what you just said is very important, that it's all been treated already. And I don't think people really understand that, because I didn't even understand that. So I'm not alone.
Yeah, and it's a complex subject and something that people don't want to necessarily talk about their wastewater all the time, but it is. I'm glad you mentioned that, because it's very important, especially I live in the city of Bay City, and we pay on our sewer rates. Our rates are high, we all know that, but those rates have gone towards the construction of these wastewater treatment basins that are in place in 5 locations around Bay City, 7 of them in the city of Saginaw that they've paid for up in Saginaw. We've paid for our 5 here in Bay City, and that effectively, we have some of the best stormwater or storm event treatment of our storm events in the state of Michigan. And so it's time to kind of show that off, but also, most importantly, get that information out so that people don't think that that's, because it's just bad information, and some people do know, and so, and I hear it more and more being corrected, that people do understand that that's certainly treated wastewater.
Thank you.
Commissioner Kuhn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Laura, I know you know this better than probably anybody in a very large area. And I think you probably educate those people too, the difference between a point source and a non-point source. And the point source being, as you spoke, water being treated through a water treatment plant. And that probably contributes about 1/3 of the pollution that goes into our river or ends up out in the bay. For 2/3 of the contaminants or the pollution comes from a non-point source, and that's at the end of a ditch or through a pipe that does not get treated. So you're absolutely right. I live in the city as well, and I don't have a problem paying higher fees to have cleaner water, because a huge percentage of the time, all of our water, all of our, everything that goes into the catch basins is getting treated. When you have an event, that's where the retention basins come into play. But outside, because we have a combined sewer system, outside the city where they don't have a combined sewer system, and it just goes through a pipe into a ditch, into a river, into the river out to the bay, that contributes most of the pollutants that we are dealing with versus the point source. So.
Right. Exactly. We have cleaner storm event type discharges going on when it runs through our system, our sanitary wastewater system, through the RTBs, then those non-point source in the rural areas. Exactly.
Commissioner Durant.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Laura, I just want to say good work on Phragmites Grant there all along. We're working with a bunch of different counties there. $300-some thousand, huge. It's going to go towards a lot of it towards education, to educate the people what we can do, and so very good work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Krieger.
Thank you. To go along with what Kim's talking about as far as areas of pollution or where it's coming from, I don't know if there's anything we can do with our legislators. I mean, they have their hands full right now with what's going on in Flint, but Bay County actually is at the end of the pipe. And these other communities that are dumping or have issues with their point source of pollution needs to be corrected. I mean, we can spend all the money we want to help clean up the bay, but if it's coming from somewhere else and they're not holding their fair share of responsibility, I think we need to let the legislators know that they have to look at it. And when I say legislators, I'm not talking about Lansing, I'm talking about in Washington. That's where the money is, and that's where we have to focus so we can continue to make that bay healthy.
If, through the chair, I will say that when I mentioned these retention treatment basins, this additional enhanced treatment within the city of Bay City and the city of Saginaw, one of the things that, the gaps that we've identified is up in the headwaters in Genesee County, like you're talking about. And that is really, we can do and provide the best wastewater treatment in the state, as we've been doing. But as you've described, if this stuff is coming in upstream from us, flowing past our area, it is something that does need to be addressed. And this may be a very good time, because Flint is obviously, and Genesee County is going to be needing some upgrades in their infrastructure.
And I know you have an event coming up. Dr. Rose is going to be here. If you
Yes.
want to maybe hit on what that is and where it's at, and if the public's welcome.
April 22nd, we are planning, it's still in the planning stages, and that is Earth Day, that's a Friday. We are having a public presentation by Dr. Joan Rose. She is the researcher who had been up in this area in the Saginaw Bay, sampling a lot of our near-shore conditions and our near-shore muck. She is willing to kind of go over the science behind what the latest findings are, both in her research as well as NOAA's research. On that same day, in fact, that's when the city of Bay City is going to be hosting an open house of their wastewater treatment plant, specifically a retention treatment basin, so that people can see how that chlorination occurs, how that primary treatment and then this polishing, the secondary treatment for bacteria actually occurs within those basins. And it's very interesting. You know, the Friendship Shell downtown, that ring, you can see it from coming, heading west on Center. Some people know, some people don't know that that is a retention treatment basin sitting there, 6.1 million gallon basin, waiting to treat that heavy storm load before it goes into the river. So we are, the highest quality system in the state.
Thanks for all you do. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
And that presentation will be on YouTube. Yesterday's presentation will be on YouTube on the county executive's website in a week or a few days when we get that loaded.
Okay. Yes, Tom.
Just briefly, Mr. Chair, I've had some really good feedback from people since your presentation today several times. And I'm not surprised that there was a good turnout at it, because it was the notice, as I told you Sunday night, it was on the bulletin board at the Turkey Roost. So it had very good distribution.
High standards.
All right, well, good.
Well, the turkey was very good, by the way.
All right, well, thank you.
Laura, I want to thank you for all your efforts you're doing in all these areas. You always do a fine job. And just want to make sure that everybody's aware of the fine job you do.
Thank you.
Thinks he's Peyton Manning now.
Anybody else that would like to address the committee? Seeing none, let's go on to petitions and communications. Under A, we have Health Director, the agreement with Northeast Michigan Community Services Agency, NEMA, Head Start, Bay County Health Department. They're seeking an agreement, approval of the agreement. Support. We have a motion and support. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed, same sign. Under item 2, we have renewal of the Mitchell and McCormick licensure agreement. What is your pleasure on that one?
Motion approved.
Support. We have a motion and support. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Under Personnel Director, we have item B, or B1, which would be the renewal of the membership agreement at Delta College Fitness and Recreation Center.
So moved.
Support. We have a motion and support. Any, yes, Commissioner?
Oh, if you're ready to, I just want to give accolades, because I think any type of wellness that we've been doing, and we do a lot of good wellness around here, is we probably don't see directly the benefits from it, but we do know through studies that by offering this type of wellness at both Delta and our own community center. It's healthy for people to be able to access affordable recreation or wellness. And we do that for our employees and then for our residents as well, utilizing whether it's the ice arena or the community center. So every time I see this, I just think that it's a good thing for the amount of money that we invest in this. I think we do get a lot of good return off that investment. So I know you guys do all the work, and we kind of give suggestions, but you've done a good job on that, so.
Anyone else? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign, motion carries. Now, the rest of these under vacancies, we have several pages of our, starting up in the spring, of all of our seasonal people, so we can probably take these all as one group.
Motion to approve.
Support.
Okay, we have motion and support. Anybody? No comments? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Okay, we have, I think that's everything under new business. We have referral. This is the referral of the Board of Commissioners, Resolution 2016-56 for the reorganization, consolidation of responsibles for the public defender and corporate counsel.
So moved. Support.
Okay, the only, with this, the motion reads to post and fill, where I would hope that we could make this just to be to post and not fill at this particular time.
I would amend that. Support.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just thought it'd be a good idea to give an update on a meeting that we had today with Judge Clyda, we being Commissioner Lutz, myself, Shauna, and Barbara. And it lasted about an hour and 45 minutes, no, an hour and 15 minutes. And we covered a lot of areas of what we're talking about doing, and our short-term goal is to post the two positions and see what kind of candidates that we get for the two positions. And then the intent is to have some further discussion with not only with Judge Clyda, but also with Barb in the context of what's going on in Lansing. But the bottom line is that the idea of having two separate departments that, similar to what we did in prior to the contract that is currently expired, we would go back to that model. We did not rule out the option of having some of the legal work contracted out. That's something we want to look at in the context of some of the changes that are coming down. The comments were made that two positions may or may not be able to accommodate the workload because of some of the requirements in that legislation. And we would keep the office of the assigned counsel would remain in the circuit court. There are some court rules that I was advised that exist that there is a specific responsibility on the part of the court to manage that aspect of assigned counsel. And so I think that we'll be able to come back by the time posting the positions and doing some interviews will get us into next month and probably in April. We'll keep the ball rolling. And I'm comfortable with what came out of that discussion. Judge Clyda was very specific in stating that their responsibility is not to dictate how the legal representation is going to occur, but they are interested in making sure that the operations of the courts are done in a way that keeps the docket moving and at the same time ensuring that people have the appropriate representation.
Commissioner Krieger.
Yep, I see that Barb's here, and if it's all right, I'd like to ask her a question, if you would kindly indulge with your stick?
Better found.
I really do appreciate you coming to this meeting. I know you've been involved with a lot of discussions with Judge Kleina and Mr. Hickner and Shauna. And I guess with all of what's been discussed last week, and we're up to this point now where we're going to go out and look and see what the market bears for attorneys, are we, in your opinion, as an overseer of what's going on the right track?
I think this track will be one that the commission would look favorably on. I think I indicated that last week. I just keep emphasizing it's a local control statute. You folks need to make the decision about how you want to structure these things. But in general, in-house is a favored method because there are sort of clearer lines than there are with the contracts. There are lots of counties that have contracts, and I imagine that'll continue. But if you want to look at what's a better method, I think generally speaking, it would be looked upon as a better method to be in-house.
And would you say that the lines of communication now with the courts are stronger than they were?
It seems to be so, yes. I think Mr. Hickner today reassured Judge Kleina that there would be additional direct communication, and she wanted to be here today. She had a last-minute hearing, and so she asked me to be here because she couldn't, because there was something that came up that she needed to attend to in court. So I just wanted to be here in case there were some questions.
Yeah.
But it seems like the communication is definitely better. She was pleased, I think, that this meeting took place today, and I think a lot of things were just clarified as to what part the court has, what part you have, what part the county has, as far as the county executive's office, just to be a little clearer about how things are going to go. And that, I mean, it's obvious that there's going to be some changes no matter what, and in order to make them work smoothly, the communication is going to be very important.
Well, I know with the retirement of Judge Schmidt and Dawn Kleida stepping up to the plate, we're very lucky to have her in that position. And so some of this has got to be a little overwhelming added to her plate right now.
Well, right, and she talked today about how being a judge short is going to make it more difficult for everyone because they'll be doing the same work with one less judge. So.
Very good. Thank you.
But I think it's definitely on a good track.
Thank you.
Commissioner Coonan.
Thank you. Two questions. I had one earlier, but being a judge short, that wasn't a decision made by us.
No,
it was a decision
that's
made and
absolutely.
So they made that decision based upon workload.
That's correct.
So I think we need
Haven't
to make,
been in
we
a
need to
county
make
yet
that
that's
clear.
experiencing it happily though.
Yes, absolutely. But Tom, you mentioned something, and prior to contracting out, when we were in-house and provided services to the poor and the indigent, we did contract certain cases out anyway.
Yes.
So what you mentioned that we might contract out, well, we always did that. Are you talking about contracting out something above and beyond that, or just those cases that conflict with the system that if we set it up, then we will contract things out, just like we did in the past? So it's not anything new that we're going to be
You want me
doing.
to speak to that? Okay. I think most of what he's talking about has to do with this new proposal for representation and arraignment. That's going to be a completely new thing, and in most of the counties that I've been in, people are considering contracting just that slot, that arraignment, because it's going to be a completely new thing. That'll obviously be something that the commission will be funding, but that's going to take a lot of hours for a person, and I just don't see any way that this proposal that you're looking at can cover that, and I think that's the main thing. I didn't mean to cut you off, but since I know a little bit about that, I thought maybe I'd jump in.
Okay, thank you.
She's the lawyer and can speak better than I can.
Can I go too early? Commissioner Tilly next.
Just the back of the administration, I want to make sure that nobody that's working over there outside of council or what we're going to hire in council, the other staff are not going to be affected by this. I mean, they may be affected by a move one way or another as they have to shift between a wall or whatever might happen, but that they're not going to be demoted or removed from a position as a result of this.
Correct.
Okay, that's all. Thanks.
Commissioner Krieger.
Thanks. When we talk about this outside contract that we might do with an attorney that needs to be there, that's above and beyond our norm. So I know the state always says the check's in the mail, but there's a possibility that we will be reimbursed for that.
It's like this, if they don't pay for it, you don't have to do it. That's the way the statute reads. They're putting these requirements down, and anything that it costs you over and above what you've spent in the 3 fiscal years before the statute, if they're requiring you to do something new, they have to fund it.
Okay, so Barb said,
I mean, there's just no way they can make you have somebody there to do that. If there's money for it, it would be a violation of that, for one thing.
okay, thank you.
Commissioner Begic.
I had the same question.
Oh, yeah, same question.
Same question, if the money doesn't come in, do we have to do it? So I guess that answers that question.
Right.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that came out of our meeting today was just that, other step that they're putting in place, which is right now there doesn't have to be an attorney present for arraignments, but will have to be under the new rules. So that's going to take a lot of time. I mean, the judge today, before we got there, she had 30 people in front of her for arraignment for, today, and that's a daily thing that they go through as far as arraignment. So, and they do that, twice a day. They do the walk-ins in the morning, and they do the people that end up in jail in the afternoon.
So the additional time would be in part because the attorney that's handling those arraignments is also going to have to talk to the people. So it's going to increase the time. That's just one more reason why I don't think the staffing that is being looked at here can possibly cover it, because it's going to be a fairly time-consuming process.
Yes, Mr. Grant.
According to the statute or whatever, if additional costs, like at a sheriff's department for additional transportation, would that be covered also?
Well, for one thing, there's not transportation, it's video arraignment.
Okay.
As far as other kinds of costs, I think they're working out some of those things. For the most part, yes, I'm not sure they're gonna go for building construction costs, if there's like walls that have to be moved and that sort of thing. But if it's part of the budget that you have allotted to indigent defense, and that budget has to be increased, that's what they're going to fund.
I see. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Same sign. Motion carries. I don't believe we have any unfinished business. Any new business? Any miscellaneous business that we need to discuss? Any announcements? I don't have any.
Move to adjourn.
We have a motion and support. All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.